Good afternoon, Logo 304. Week 3 of the YouTube channel. Excuse me. Give you an update of what's happening in Logo 304 this past week. Again, I appreciate any kind of feedback. If you like these videos, I'd sure like to know that. If there's something else you'd like to see, something different than what I'm presenting, let me know that too. Length, is it long enough, or should it be shorter? Whatever opinions you guys have, I'd love to hear them. So again, let's just jump right in. Speaking of the Westar merger with KCPL, there's a meeting next week where we're going to start talking about, I think I told you a little bit last week about the IT overlap going from the number of data centers they currently have down to 2, and what that's going to look like when Local 304 has the only represented workers in that group. So more to come on that after next week. The only other real important thing, again, on Westar I want to hit on is please make sure that we're hearing what's going on with the insurance. Still keep hearing about the chiropractic and about denial of MRIs or pre-qualifications for that stuff. So please let us know what's going on. Again, if we're going to have a discussion with our Healthcare Utilization Committee, we need to know more facts to be able to have a good conversation about that. The chiropractor, again, it sounds like a lot of that is just medical necessity. So if the chiropractor could make sure he does a little more in the paperwork, that would help get some of those bills paid. Kansas Gas, last week was the Joint Labor Management Team meeting. Again, it sounds like it was a very good meeting, lots of good information shared on the Code of Excellence. I had a pretty good conversation about how we can do better with our new hires. I told you last week that I'm going to start getting day 1 of the 501 gauge, and they're starting to try to find a way that we can get to the field guys a little earlier and in larger groups rather than just a one-on-one kind of thing. So I know we've got quite a few new hires in Manhattan, so working with the local management there to try to get something set up so I can get down there. Absenteeism, got a report from 501 gauge that we're looking much better on our absenteeism rates. So that's very good news. I'm glad to hear that. That's something we've been fighting for years, trying to get a handle on. So thank you, members that are making sure we're successful in that. That's what's going to help us find success in the future of that negotiations. Also, they talked about the Everbridge trial run. You know, for several years we've been talking about the new call-out system called Everbridge. The company is open-minded enough to look at doing a trial run of that, and they'll start in Manhattan, and they'll have weekly meetings to kind of critique what's going on so they can make sure that that system doesn't set us up for failure. And again, I think that says a lot for being a Code of Excellence company and how we make sure that new programs that are implemented still have the ability for us both to be successful. Talking about DriveCam, you know, that's something I hit a lot on in my COE for the field. And it sounds like we're still having the same incidents, handheld devices being used when they shouldn't, and backing accidents. Sounds like we've had 5, I think, since the beginning of this year, backing accidents. So need to be really paying attention to that. Please don't use those devices whenever you're driving. The company's expectation is that when you drive, that's the job that you should be doing, and it would certainly help your union if we didn't have any disciplines that were coming out of that kind of stuff. So put those devices down, concentrate on driving, and then pick them up whenever you've reached your destination, or pull over if you have to. Our next meeting, I think, is in July, and it's going to be held at 501 gauge this time. So good job to for your committee and how they're promoting the ability to have good conversation about working conditions there at Kansas Gas. Speaking of that, let's talk a little bit about negotiations. Pretty exciting time at Local 304 again this year. Our number of contracts coming around. I know we've spoken several times about the line clearance agreement, and that will happen again next week. 3rd meeting with the mediator, so hopefully we can move that needle a little bit. Please reach out and show solidarity to that group. They really need it. The NECA contract, we're looking at starting to lock in some dates. We're holding on some dates anyway at the end of May, hoping that's going to work out for the contractors. And Sunflower Electric, I told you last week I was getting ready to head down to Dodge City Friday after we did this video, and man, I had a great time with the large committee down there. I really want to send a shout out to Terry, James, Jeff, Steve, and the gang. We had a great large committee meeting. I really appreciate those guys giving up their Saturday morning to come out and brainstorm on the issues that their members have brought to them and the proposals we went through, and had a very, very good meeting. And I feel really good about the proposals that Gene Seacard, the West End assistant business manager, is putting together for that negotiations. And it looks like we're going to open that up like the third week of August. So again, very, very exciting times whenever we have the ability to sit down and have a conversation about wages and working conditions. Those are what it's all about. I think that's one of the most important reasons why we are a union. I want to talk a little bit about our organizing, as I usually do, that we did reach a settlement on our employee organizer that was terminated from one of our most recent drives. And I think the most important statement to say coming out of that is that the employer does have to post from the NLRB that employees do have the right to exercise their Section 7 rights to organize. And that's important for everyone to understand, that if there's an area out there that's having problems with being able to maintain a respectful workplace and a voice in their wages and working conditions, that's the reason why you'd want to bring those employees together to form a union. So, of course, David Galvin is always open for a phone call if you've got any areas that want to have that conversation. City of Chanute, there was some changes that happened in the power plant management there at the city. And so Brad Miller, your East End assistant, and I have been working on a memorandum of understanding to absorb some more of that work and raise a higher level classification there in the power plant. So we've shot a couple of MOUs across to the city manager, and we're working to complete that. It looks like it'll be a win-win for both the city and Local 304 there. So last week, I know we had talked about Ginger's retirement being effective on March 29th. So last week at the local meeting, we had a changeover in the recording secretary. So Tanya McNeeb is the new recording secretary for IBEW Local Union 304. I don't know how much you know about recording secretaries, but they probably not a lot, because Ginger did it for as long as we all can remember. But the recording secretary not only takes the minutes of the local meeting, but also has to sign the warrants for all the bills, keeps the communication with the international, amongst some other duties. So Tanya is new to the role and needs your support in making her successful with that. So one of the things that I'd like to do now with her being in there is, instead of hard mailing out the minutes and executive board minutes to all the unit chairs, I'd like to start doing that electronically. So working with the assistants as they come around to your unit meetings, we'll make sure we have a good email address, not a company email address, but a personal email address that we can use to send those minutes. If you don't have an email address, we could certainly set you up with one at IBEW304.org. So please contact your assistant, and we'll work through that. I think that'll make things a lot smoother, get it to you a lot quicker, and just an opportunity to make a change now that we've got a new recording secretary. Let's talk a little bit about why we are union members. And obviously, I know I've said it to you before, that Local 304 is always looking at a way that in a right to work state to be able to show you there are benefits to being a union member beyond just what is negotiated through your agreement. And so one of the big things that we offer are supplemental benefits, AFLAC being one, and we are going to have an open enrollment period coming up for AFLAC. Our insurance consultant just contacted me the other day and started the conversation about when we start that opening. So I want you to know that's coming up, and as we've always done each year, we'll make sure we get good information out there so that the packets are available. You know that we also offer a Midwest Electrical Workers Long-Term Disability Trust, and so there's a good opportunity there for a long-term disability benefit if you don't have one negotiated through your agreement. And so please contact me or this office about the details of that. Something I've recently been asked about is long-term care, and I know that's a big issue in the media as we all start living longer. And looking at the end of life, and if those needs for long-term care can be very financially devastating. So our insurance consultant's been out looking to see if he can find us a good benefit. Obviously, that's going to be something that's going to be cheaper. As younger that you are, the older you are, it's going to be more expensive. But that's a benefit we're looking at. If that's something that you're interested in, I'd also like to hear from you. I don't want to spend a lot of time trying to dig into a benefit if there's not a need for it. And then lastly, Union Plus. And I know I've broached this subject before, but please go out on the internet and look at the Union Plus website and see all of the different financial, everything from buying flowers to car insurance to mortgage to credit cards to health fitness centers. There's all kinds of places that you can go. So cell phones. Just the old adage is that if you did everything that you currently do through Union Plus, you will save more than what your union dues are every month. So I encourage you to get out there and take a look at that. Again, that's a benefit only for union members. Organizing, back on organizing again. I know that I just saw a wind farm that's going to be built down around Reading, and so we're starting to look now and making sure our contractors know that's out there. I know that's a high level of organizing, but then David Galvin, your local organizer, is still working on all the different internal and external opportunities there are. I know that Western Kansas has quite a few rural electric cooperatives, that are currently not union, and so that's something that if you have any contacts there, please contact us. We'd love to be able to talk to them and share the message of what it means to be union. Looking at steward training, and it's been a year or so since we had our last steward training class, and I've got quite a few new stewards. So we just had a turnover in the education department. So working with the International, trying to get a date set for that. So for those of you out there that are watching this that have contacted me about your group wanting you to be a steward, that's what I'm waiting on, is getting that steward training set up. So hopefully that's going to happen in the next couple of months. The last thing I'll leave you with is that one of the static messages that I've seen the past week or so across both the Kansas Gas and the Westar agreement, I don't know if it's springtime and the opportunities for overtime are becoming more, but some looks at our overtime agreements. Both contracts under 9.2.7 talk about how to set up overtime agreements, and those are mutual agreements made locally in the local worker occupational group. So please work with your steward, local management, in order to make sure that your agreement is accurate and that it's designed the way you want it to. Obviously, it's feast or famine in a lot of cases, and just need to make sure that everybody's voice is heard in how you set that up. I look forward to hearing from you, and you guys have a good day. I'll talk to you next week.